Let's look at the foreign relations of the United States immediately after the Constitution is ratified. Haiti, in the Caribbean, directly copied some of the text from our Declaration of Independence to declare their independence from France. Haiti has a war for independence against France, which is led by Toussaint L'Ouverture, and in 1791 wins their freedom. Our Declaration of Independence also influenced a number of countries in Latin America to declare their independence. And like Haiti, some of them copied some of the lines, some of the text that Jefferson had written to declare their independence from Spain and Portugal. In France, the Declaration of the Rights of Man, written by Lafayette, was actually written by Lafayette with assistance from Thomas Jefferson, all right? And some of the ideas in the Declaration of the Rights of Man also borrowed some of the ideas in the constitutions of the state governments in the United States. Initially, the United States gives universal support to the French Revolution. French Revolution sounds like the people are casting off monarchy and replacing it with a republic. But then they become a little bit divided. Jefferson and the Democratic Republicans wholly support replacing the monarchy, but John Adams and the Federalists feel like the reign of terror in the French Revolution is mob rule at its worst. They feel like the revolution has gone too far in France. The French Revolution leads to France fighting a number of wars with the rest of Europe, okay? France is fighting a bunch of countries, including Great Britain. And France is the Republic. And France is our ally, according to the Treaty of Alliance in 1778. It would make sense for us to support our ally that we've signed a treaty with and the nation that has a more democratic form of government. France is a republic, and Britain is a constitutional monarchy. But we do not want to get into another war. One big reason why is that we are trading with France and Britain during the French Revolution. Another big reason why is we have no navy whatsoever. So how much are we going to be able to actually affect the fighting in Europe without our ships being harassed? This is why one of the most important things that George Washington does is declare that the United States will remain neutral with the Neutrality Proclamation of 1793, stating that we will stay neutral and U.S. citizens will even be punished for aiding either side in the conflict between France and Britain. This Neutrality Proclamation further draws a wedge between Hamilton and Jefferson. Hamilton thinks that we should stay neutral or maybe even support the British, while Jefferson feels we should support our allies in France. In 1793, we recognize the French Republic. We formally declare that the French Republic is a legitimate government representing the people of France. We are the first nation to recognize France, kind of like they were the first nation to recognize our independence from Britain. This new government, after we've recognized them, means that we can start diplomatic relations with the new French government. And the new French government sends over an ambassador known as Citizen Genet. And while here in America, he starts to encourage American ship owners, American ship captains, to attack British ships. In fact, he gives them letters, he declares them privateers. In other words, he makes them legal pirates. Pirates in the service of the French government, and says that they are legally allowed to attack any British ships. And he also encourages American frontiersmen to attack Spanish Florida. Spain was also fighting France at the time. This means that he is affecting American policy. He is going against Washington's Neutrality Act. He is putting Americans in jeopardy of being getting in trouble with their government by encouraging them to participate in this war. This means that Citizen Genet and France lose a little bit of support from America. And in 1793, in part due to the Citizen Genet affair, but also due to our inability or our slowness in paying off our debt still, Britain declares that they will continue to occupy their forts in the Great Lake region. And the British are being jerks on the high seas. They are seizing American ships, oftentimes ones destined for trade with France, even though we are neutral. And they even force some American sailors to join the British Navy. This policy is known as impressment. They would seize an American ship, or maybe just stop an American ship, and take some of those American sailors and tell them, you have to join the British Navy, or accuse them of being British sailors that had deserted the British Navy and forced them to serve on British naval vessels. Also, the British are arming Native Americans to attack American settlers on the frontier. We are still having problems with Great Britain despite the Revolutionary War being over. Chief Justice John Jay from the Supreme Court is sent to negotiate a treaty with Great Britain. And what he's able to get is he gets Britain to agree to leave the Great Lakes. He gets Britain to agree to pay reparations or property or damages for seized ships, okay, as long as that debt that we have to British merchants will be paid by the U.S. government. Americans had bought a number of things on credit from British merchants after the Revolutionary War, and we have yet to pay off all of that debt. So in exchange for paying off that debt, the British will pay us back for the ships that they seized, and they will leave the Midwest. There are no reparations for slaves that were freed during the Revolutionary War. Okay? The British Army, while in the South, had declared that any slave fighting for the British Army would be set free at the end of the war, and that's why so many African Americans fought for the British, and that led to freedom for a lot of slaves and a lot of former slaves leaving the country. That is a financial loss for those slave owners. Okay? So, the Jay's Treaty, as a result of that, looks like it is very pro-Britain. Okay? For some, it looks like it's anti-French. And for a lot of people, it looks like it's pro-North. It's going to reimburse those northern merchants for the ships that they lost, but it's not reimbursing any of the Southerners for the property, air quotes, that they lost. And as a result, Jay's Treaty looks to be something that the Federalist Party would definitely like, and the Democratic Republicans would not like. We also have Pinckney's Treaty, signed with Spain in 1795. The Spanish are encouraging Indians in Alabama and Mississippi and Louisiana, what we might call the Old Southwest, to attack Americans. And this is proving unsuccessful for them. They're having difficulty gaining Indian allies in that region, and so they basically give up and try to form a treaty with us. And what the treaty says is that the boundary of Spanish Florida will be at the 31st parallel. And more importantly, the United States will have open access to the Mississippi River and the right to use what at the time was a Spanish port of New Orleans. This is very important because at this time, if you live west of the Appalachian Mountains, the easiest way to get your goods to market is to take them down a river, maybe the Ohio River and then eventually the Mississippi River, and then take them by ship to the East Coast. It's actually faster to go all the way down those rivers and sail through the Gulf of Mexico and out into the Atlantic rather than try to travel back across the Appalachian Mountains because roads were not that good. In 1769, Spain had sent their navy and had begun building military bases to prevent the Russians from attacking California and other Spanish possessions in the Pacific. They didn't want the Russians moving down from Alaska, where they had established some settlements. And they had established missions throughout California. And these missions, as compared to other parts of the Spanish Empire, are larger and even more influential in their community and even longer lasting than those in New Mexico and Texas. The missions in California are well supported, and they are truly centers of those communities. And they relied on Indian labor, but they also, in their opinion, were turning those Native Americans into productive Christians. So all this is still going on in Spanish-controlled California, while the United States is a new nation back east.